This is our usual question and answers for spiritual seekers. Just in case there's any confusion, on Sunday mornings, of course, we have question and answers for Vedanta series. In other words, people are free to ask any question. Same thing on Wednesday. What's the difference? Well, on Wednesday, it's more to do with spiritual seekers. That means what difficulties you may have from the practical side of spiritual life. So anyway, regardless of the questions, we'll begin with our usual peace chant for teachers and students. I'm sure you all know it by now. I say it every week, and with its English translation. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Astu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one nourish us both. May that one protect us both. May we work together with great energy and vigor. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cover with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So I'll pause as usual so that you can formulate some questions.
It's not a question as such, or maybe it is, but just thinking about all our thoughts, but all our thoughts are just facets of our mind and our perceptions of things. I don't really have a question, but just could you say something about that perhaps?
Well, it is in fact a question. You can put a question mark afterwards and you can put the word "are our thoughts?" And the answer is not entirely. So that requires some explanation. I think the best way to understand the individual mind is something like a transistor that is capable of tuning into a larger broadcast. And in that broadcast is reliant on the permeating waves that are omnipresent, so that you can catch it anywhere you like. You just tune in. On one of the chat groups, somebody very kindly put a global connection with multiple radio stations. I think I lost that link, but it was a very useful link because from your computer, you can actually pick up any number of radio broadcasts from anywhere in the world, but that is due to satellite technology. So some satellite can pick it up. But whatever it is, whether there's a booster relay such as a satellite that gives more global coverage, the airwaves are always ever present. These all-permitting waves that carry not only radio waves, but also heat waves, light waves, gamma rays, X-rays. This is called the electromagnetic spectrum or electromagnetic field. Well, actually, the visible spectrum is within it. And at the two ends of the visible spectrum would be ultraviolet and infrared. So is thought something like that? Now, in Swami Vivekananda's wonderful book, Raja Yoga, a series of lectures leading up to Patanjali Yoga Sutras, on which he gives a wonderful commentary. He has a whole chapter on psychic prana, because what we have been talking about so far is energy. What we call thought is an energy, not normally registered like that, because we think of energy in terms of potential energy, kinetic energy, radiation, all of those kinds of things. Or work, the original definition, Newton's law, the work necessary to make something move. F equals ma, a very old and yet wonderful equation. So we are still using the language of force when Swami Vivekananda comes to us. He doesn't use the term energy. He's using the old-fashioned term force. But what he's saying, he's talking about prana. He has to. He has to because Patanjali, in his Yoga Sutras, picks up this prana. So thought is an energy. Is it your personal energy? Is it your personal thought? No, it is not necessarily your personal thought at all. So you can consider you have a local instrument that is capable of tuning in. What is the mechanism that tunes in? Attention. But all of our experience, that's on the one hand, all of our experiences all get registered. They get registered as impressions in the unconscious mind or subconscious mind. And all these impressions collected, the collection is called samskara. Samskara, I've heard people say, oh, my samskaras, as if they are bad things. It's like a deposit box. Every time a thought goes out, every time some action goes out, accompanied by a thought, a stamp is put on it, and it's held in an unconscious library. And we are told in the Bhagavad Gita that it is Krishna who brings these impressions out, brings the library books out, puts them back in. I'm responsible for memory as well as its loss. So not only is there a cosmic mind as a broadcasting agent, a divine Lord, if you will, a creative principle that creates all of this, divided into classifications. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad tells us that this whole world is name, form, and function. Nama, Rupa, Kriya. One of the interpretations for it might be work. So naturally, when something impinges on the outside, an appropriate filing, research takes place, the library of the mind, and a presentation is made of associated things. We can call it in modern psychological language word association. Nama. It is all nama. It is the impression, it is the word, it is speech. And then the actual form is there because whatever word is there crystallizes as a form. And then we have two things. So for example, you may see an elephant, it may be stored in your memory, and clearly it's not in the brain because the brain isn't big enough to store an elephant. So the form is left behind, but the subtle form is there called name. And by naming elephant, the image of elephant comes to mind with everything we ever learned about the elephant. So to that extent, yes, the thoughts are really from us, from the unconscious mind, but not all of them, because if there is a whole universe with this psychic prana, if the universe is one huge electromagnetic wave system called mind, cosmic mind, then we can tune in to many, many different thoughts. And when they come to us, we say, it came to me. That had nothing to do with me. It wasn't from the inside out. It was from the outside in. It came to me. I got this inspiration. You take a Beethoven walking in a forest. From somewhere he gets an inspiration. Commentators on Beethoven say he seemed to have some personal connection to God. And he wasn't a good melodist. He wasn't a good orchestrator. If you take all the individual components necessary for a symphony, he wasn't good at any of those things. But he was good at presenting the notes in an inevitable order, as if, says Bernstein, a great musician and composer himself, Leonard Bernstein. It's as if he had a perfect wire to God, a perfect individual personal line to God that told him what the next note should be, and the next note has to be that note. And it's always delivered absolutely perfectly. So where does that come from? It comes from taking our attention and agitating it in a certain concentrated direction. And when we do that, we create, as it were, a kind of whirlpool, an attraction of ideas. Similar ideas come, and we can see very clearly those people who are inventing or who are in the world of aesthetics may have the same ideas at the same time. You might find that way, way back in the Stone Age, even before that, when man made his significant discovery of fire, that people from different parts of the world made the same discovery at the same time. Now, there's a man called Rupert Sheldrake. He's essentially a biologist, but he is known for his theory, and I think he makes a book called Morphological Resonance. And his idea is that there is this cosmic energy, this cosmic thought everywhere. And he's conducting worldwide experiments to verify this in the scientific way. Of course, the rest of the scientific community don't like it. Swami Purnananda explains why in his introduction to Raja Yoga. And he says there, you see, there are two kinds of people who are ignorant of these fairly unusual things, which we think are unusual or difficult to explain. Telepathy, for example. In my youth, I asked my stupid question to my teacher. I said, "What about telepathy? Please explain it." And patiently, he didn't say, "No, don't worry about all those things." He said, "Well, it's like the broadcast waves from a particular broadcast studio, and the broadcast and the receiving is the same thing." And then I got, aha, that's it. So when two people who are closely connected and aligned, such as twins, identical twins, even if they're separated, when they have a connection, they know what the other is thinking. "Please call me," and the other person calls. "I knew you would call. I sent a message." So now we have that explanation. We have no explanation if we think that this is an individual mind and all the thoughts belong to us and they're expressions of us. No. What, of course, is there is reaction to circumstances. With all our built up experience, we react. So let us review. There are several types of thoughts. One type of thought we can say is instinctive thought or habitual thought, and it's not really thought at all. It's just a reaction. A mosquito lands on my nose, and my nose is in peril. Never mind. I still swat it with a hand. Instinctively, I don't even think about it. As an itch occurs on my arm, instinctively I scratch it. So that's one level. Another level will be, and that's come from the unconscious area. Another level will be when we search for a solution. We have to make a decision and collect all the information, evaluate it properly, and then we make a pros and cons list, and we make an executive decision. That is another level of thought where we use our experience from the unconscious mind, we bring it to the conscious area, and we use the conscious mind to make our informed decision. So there's an overlap between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. But all of the unconscious was originally conscious. And we can go as far back as we like in our incarnations to the single-celled organism that learned to survive by doing some things. They have found one of the longest bacteria in the world. Normally bacteria is, let's say, half a micron. A micron is 1,000th of a millimeter by 1 micron. But this is visible. So a visible bacteria that has learned to make a number of different chains and replicate in a certain way becomes something like a train. So this is a remarkable discovery. Such a big bacteria has never been discovered before. How did it learn this? So all of our experience is learned. It must be like that. And when we learn, oh no, I don't go there, I shouldn't go there, I should go here. And there's a driving mechanism for it from within. What is the driving mechanism? It's not just that I want to survive because I want to survive. No, I want to live because the author of life is deep inside and is life itself, pure existence itself, pure being. And if you want to put it in this way, we're trying to get back to our original being. And what we call struggle and competition is nothing more than an attempt to get back to our original pristine being, our original source. So that's the one area. And all of that is there in the habit level, what we call the unconscious mind. Naturally, when something impinges on the outside, we use all those resources. Some of them are instinctual and happen immediately as an immediate reaction because we know already. And knowledge means I don't have to repeat anything anymore. By definition, knowledge is the cessation of the necessity to repeat something. I don't have to constantly repeat my name. If I know it, I don't have to repeat it. And it's inexhaustible. I don't deplete it. Every time I make a signature, I don't have to repeat another 108 times my name, my name, my name, just to top up my knowledge. There's no depletion of knowledge when I use it. It's always there. And then in our reaction, we can use other facets of the mind to evaluate, was this the right action? Is this this first reactivity, is it the correct one? So this comes about in what I call the 4 R's. We have the capacity, first of all, we react. Secondly, we have the capacity to review what went on. And thirdly, we can revalue. We can think about it and select a mode of behavior that is much more suitable, that incorporates an element of wisdom. And put that in, and the more we repeat that, the more it becomes our first habitual reaction, saturating the mind with better behaviors. So cultivating the mind also automatically brings out a word form association. So name and form is there. Now we can actually use that. We can use that in developing new thoughts and attracting new thoughts. How so? We can use name along with its functionality, that is its feeling, to create a form. As soon as I say strong, 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 strength resonates in me. I feel strong. If you say wise, 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 wisdom comes in me. And when I say me, every single part of me, the aggregate of the body, it thrills in. The mind, it thrills in. The whole personality shapes itself around it. So for that reason, don't say the reverse. Don't say the negative. Don't say I'm weak. Don't say I'm worthless. Don't say I'm non-deserving, because that will be your status. And so to cultivate that kind of thought deliberately is really spiritual practice. That is the importance, for example, of positive affirmations, and also the importance of the use of mantras. Now, mantras, of course, are thoughts. They're thoughts deliberately cultivated and meaningless if there's no feeling that goes with it. So a mantra is not a nonsensical sound. A mantra has an associated meaning because it is a name and a form and a function. It is, the name of it is the word, the mantra itself. The form of it is what manifests. And it works the other way too. When we catch the form of it, we catch the name of it. These two interacting components are there. And all of that has a functionality. And functionality involves a causal law. So we can deliberately shape the world in front of us by absolutely conjuring up thought, either from moments and memories of the past and bringing it and making a kind of procession, a kind of train of a series of thoughts and similar thoughts that leads us to a subtle inner area, our own divine nature, and elevates the soul. We can learn to do that. It's called meditation and leading a good life. And we can then, in doing that, we are taking the benefit of all the collection of thoughts in the cosmic mind, psychic prana at its best. And in doing this, we are collecting all the thoughts of the ancients and all the people who had similar thoughts with the idea this is only one mind. And then we can enrich our own experience. Charles Darwin was credited with being the author of evolution, even though he hardly used the word. But there was a man called Wallace who had exactly the same, he wasn't as well known, nor as well educated, but he had exactly the same ideas, to the extent that I think Darwin took many of his ideas and presented them to the Royal Society. And I don't know if it was exactly plagiarism, or he saw that he just wanted his work to be published before Wallace had a chance to publish his work. And so even Darwin's father and grandfather had these particular ideas, and a man called Lamarck, he had these ideas of a certain kind of evolution even before as well, and that's been absorbed. So many people who we think have original ideas have actually seized other people's ideas and incorporated them into their own way of thinking. And even Einstein would have done that. He would have taken some of the ideas that were current. For example, Maxwell's quanta. Maxwell had this quanta thing and thought it was just a device, an artifact to make things work in terms of what's called black body radiation. And Einstein said, no, I'm going to take this seriously. And in doing that, he has the basic foundations of a new subatomic theory, quantum physics. And Einstein, he was really a pioneer of that. We don't think of him as a pioneer, but that's really what he was famous for. And then, of course, he became famous for special relativity that took 15 years to develop and so on. So we're not an island isolated from other people's thoughts. And these thoughts don't have any historical timeline. They're always there. We can catch the thoughts from thousands of years back. And because, remarkably, in a cosmological understanding, there's no future either. We can catch them in the future. It seems remarkable to say that because we're caught in this network of time and space and causation. Name, form, function, and time-space causation web, if you like. And so we think of things in linear time because we see events moving in front of us. But it's very easy to know that nothing is happening in the present moment. We're always catching it as a historical moment in the past. 8.5 minutes it takes for the sun's light to come to us. When astronomers see something so many billions of light years away, say 10 billion light years away, we don't know if this thing exists anymore. It may have disappeared. It may still be there. But we have no way of knowing because that's how many light years it took to reach us. So even in a few moments, we're seeing things in the past, and time has no real relevance, but it seems to have it. Einstein once wrote to a friend, time is an illusion, but he says it's a very real kind of illusion. So we can see that there's a pool of knowledge and thoughts, some in our favor, some otherwise, and we can think that we are in possession of a kind of magnetic force, if you will, localized for us, that catches this prana and manufactures this chitta from it, this mind stuff. And from this, we manufacture thoughts which are local to us. But actually, when we see the broader picture, it's not so. The only thing that is local to us is the compilation of our local experience that has been carried forward, and even that will be a collection from everywhere else. And you know it in your own life too, that you don't have your own, exclusively your own thoughts, because as you grew up, your parents inserted their thoughts. When we talk about this transactional analysis, this parent adult script arrangement that is there in all of us, the parent script really is a collection of all these various messages that we receive directly or indirectly from the environment around us, and the dominant aspect of the environment around us is most likely our parents. How they behave, we behave. That's why the other day there was a question about addictions. And so there was a specific case that was mentioned. And I asked a question, this person, their parents, how are they? Did they have any addictions? Oh, yes, very bad. They have drinking problems and drug problems and so on. That's why this person also has the same thing. We copy the behavior. We have nothing to match anything against. We have no reference point to say whether it's good, whether it's bad. We simply take it as fact. So that's one contributor toward our own trend of thinking. And then when our psychosocial evolution changes and we go to school, then we take on the attitudes of other things, kindergarten teachers, or whatever they learn gets passed to us, and what they learn comes from other people also. So we now get into a collection of whatever people are thinking, whether it's right or wrong. I give you the example, of course. I'm talking about cosmology. You'll go to any university, go to any secondary school, and people talk about what is the origin of the universe. They're talking about a big bang. But is there any evidence for it? Probably not. Very slim evidence, if anything at all. And yet people have gone along with somebody said this and somebody said that and somebody said the other thing. And these people, we're not questioning. It's not our field. We're taking it to be true. Recently at the CERN laboratory, there were some pentaquarks and tetraquarks that have been discovered at the Large Hadron Collider, a wonderful discovery, so they say, with more than 5 sigma, more than the required certainty, statistical certainty, something like 15 sigma, they're quoting in some cases. So we take it as true. That then gets inserted into the textbooks, and now with media being so widely broadcast everywhere, so widely available, instantaneously we know many of the essential details with regards to this discovery. That then gets added to our knowledge. And we remember some things and we don't others. We have a selective memory. Those things we deem important, we take it on board. Those things that we say, oh, this is trivial, or it's not in my area of interest, that goes off. And part of that would be listening skills. And listening skills is dependent on attention, where we will take this instrument called attention and choose to direct it. And some things we want to direct it in some areas we're less interested in, and we blank that off. We put it on and ignore. And so all of this accumulates as part and parcel of our own personal experience. When we break it down, very little is us. It's all inputs from all over the place, gathered and added to possibly with opinions. But even opinions may not well be ours. Chances are, in Ireland, if you were brought up in a family that always voted for Fianna Fáil, you may be a Fianna Fáil person. Other chances might say, no, let me evaluate for myself. Let me be independent-minded. And that independent-mindedness, that, of course, will be your own individuality. But even that, you may have to rely on other facts and evidences. You may not necessarily be independently looking at it, And so I'm not sure if anybody is completely unbiased. We'll all have influxes from everywhere. Supposing, and we do have the capacity to do this, we take all the available information and we say, no, I'm now going to look at it as if I've never seen it before. A very difficult thing to do. Stand back and say, okay, for the first time, let me see. And to do that, I have to apply some criteria as to what is true. What is true? Does it come from some credible source? Again, it's an external thing. Is it rational and reasonable? I may have to sort that out myself. And then the other thing is, I then make my individual assessment by testing it out. So in a way, when we come up with individual ideas, we are really going through a scientific validation process. But then the other thing is the creative aspect. It came to me. That's what I was talking about earlier. So that as soon as we start thinking of a certain problem, let us say in the area of science or in your domestic environment, then all of a sudden while brushing the teeth, that's it. An aha moment comes. That's exactly the solution. And when the problem is not, has no evident solution, you put it on hold. You say, let me park you for a while, I'll get back to you. During the night you wake up, that's the solution. Fine. You must have come across that experience. But where did this come from? Continue to think with the area of the mind still hoisted, even while you sleep, the unconscious mind still working. And then all of a sudden, something comes. Many problems were solved in dreams, by the way. I think it was the famous golfer, was it Arnold Palmer or some such golfer? And he was losing every golf match. It may not be him, but some other famous golfer. And it came to him in a dream that, somehow he'd got into a habit of keeping a classical mistake in golf, of raising his head as he hits the ball. You just have to lower your head and make sure that as the club comes down at a certain moment, don't follow it through with your head. Keep it down on the ground. Let it go where it will. You already have a sight of it. And that won't disturb your swing. That came in a dream. And the light bulb came to Thomas Edison also in a dream and so on. All right? That's why we study dream interpretations very often. So we have access to a worldwide web that we can call the cosmic mind. It happens to be a creative mind. And when we access this from a place, a creative, poised place, a kind of blank space, watch this space while doing routine activities, typically, let's say, we're brushing the teeth, and so many ideas come. With every idea, 20 possibilities may be there. The 21st may be the right one. And where does it come from? Not from within you, but from outside, as it were. And we might say from the divine's point of view, inside from that point of view. So thought is much more complex than it just comes from us. No. I hope I answered your question.
Swamiji, that was fantastic. I will have to listen to it again. There's so much wisdom in every sentence and absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, but now we have 25 minutes more. So if there's another question, maybe. You see, the thing about what we register as thought is we're able to watch it. Even when we say it came to us, we're the witness of something just by virtue of the phrase, it came to us. Like some visitor came and sat near me. It came to us. It came to me. It suddenly occurred to me. It suddenly came to me. Where did it come from? And no doubt we stimulated it. We raised our area, we raised our inquiry. Come on, here's an interesting question. Is there some solution somewhere? I can't easily find it. Never mind. Let me review 20, 30, 40 possible scenarios. Nothing matches. Okay, leave it. Oh, at 20, what I call 21st elephant comes in the story I give, you know. The story is, I tell the story again for those who are familiar with it, no doubt. Anyway, I'm not averse to repetition. So you see, there was a father who left some 19 elephants to his sons, and 3 sons were there. And he said, in his will, he said, let this be divided equally between these sons of mine. Of course, 19 is an odd number. It's not equally divisible. What to do? And the sons racked their brains how to deal with this, because half of 19, you know, what is it? 9.5 elephants. What use is half an elephant? And would it be the front part or the back part? It doesn't seem to be much use, because elephants are the kind of tractor of the age-old days. So what to do with it? So like that, 4/5 of an elephant, you know, etc., 2/3 of an elephant, 3/4 of an elephant. You can't divide an elephant up like that. A royal person was passing with his royal elephants, bathing the royal elephants, and he saw the dilemma. He was a mathematician. He said, I'll solve your problem for you. Please take loan of one of my elephants. Now you have 20, make your division. So half of it, one brother got 10, like that. Each brother got an equal division. And then he said, now give the extra elephant back to me. So that's the 21st elephant is sometimes needed to solve a problem. But where does it come from? An inner area of creativity that is inwardly not part of you as an individual, because now we're going into a cosmic area. We're going into a causal area. And we know that the macrocosm is a duplication of the microcosm. What do I mean by that? Well, just as we have a mind, so the universal person has a mind. Just as we have a body, the universe is the universal cosmic body. And just as we have some experience of a causal state called dreamless sleep, so there's an area of potentiality, creativity, where something emerges called dream. And from dream comes a waking state. That's the order of progression, from the causal to the subtle to the gross. So the whole thing is replayed on a cosmic basis, on one axiomatic assertion. Whatever happens in one place will happen everywhere, because it's a law of constancy. And very often modern science has forgotten this law of constancy. Only Einstein never forgot it. So he had special relativity. Then he said, what about the general thing? Special relativity applies if something operates in a vacuum, and it's a special case. But can I take that and apply it generally? So he wrote up the general theory of relativity. And it's not that he put the whole universe in a laboratory. He had a thought experiment. And over the years, many, many years, the whole thing has been tested. And the equations work as far as it goes. Even gravitational waves that Einstein never ever thought he would ever discover. And yet, one of the most significant discoveries, I think it was 2014 or something, was their very, very delicate discovery from purportedly 2 black holes colliding, if you believe in black holes. Let's say 2 galaxies possibly, or whatever it was. And there we see, yes, what we call space is the gravitational field. It is a field in which gravity waves operate, and it has a ripple effect, but very, very subtle, particularly as they may diminish over distance. And so very difficult to catch. Anyway, it was verified in 2-3 places with very, very fine instrumentation designed to screen out any sound to noise ratio or any disturbing sounds which are easily picked up by sensitive instrumentation, and verified in a triangulated way by another laboratory and another laboratory. So we're pretty certain that we caught this gravitational waves, and in other words, we verified what Einstein had postulated. This is, if time and space is something like a fabric woven like that, a kind of network where mass impinges on it and creates then motion, then when you press down on this fabric, the fabric will be flexible enough and there'll be gravitational waves, or you can say ripples everywhere. And if that theory is right, we should be able to catch it, but I doubt it because we don't really have the instrumentation to do it. Anyway, it was discovered. So like that. Now we know that general relativity isn't entirely right. There are some gaps in it. But then you see, I think there are many things which are wrong. The bottom line is we take the experience of others, like standing on the shoulders of our giants. And our own personal experience is not entirely our own. It's a patchwork of inputs from all over the place and made an individual thing, no doubt. And our individual addition then becomes the influence and for other generations to come, for good or bad. So be careful what you think. Then thought, of course, has that condensational aspect. When you think, that creates a thought movement, because cosmic mind is there. Bear that in mind, as it were. And cosmic mind will start putting immediately all the vibrational effects necessary to compose a picture which arrives at your station in your environment. From the causal, your thought. From the causal to the subtle, all the subtle forces behind the universe. To the gross, the presentation. You put it another way, the order, the manufacture, the delivery. And it happens instantaneously because a thought travels faster than the speed of light. It has a huge potency, power of thought. Nothing can combat it. And if you can use it positively, you can use it in your favor. So that when you take a thought and make it a resolution, enforce it with an intention, and don't doubt it, don't cancel it, let it run through, you'll get exactly what you want, for good or bad. And the ancient people knew that. They knew the power of mantras. In the ancient Vedic times, there was a phase where they stood in wonder at all the forces of nature. And in standing in wonder, naturally it evoked an element of praise, and they felt, if we don't actually continue this praise, bad fortune will rain upon us. And if we want food, we have to have rainfall. And if we have rainfall, we have to have dedicated people who pray for it, do ritualistic actions, and say mantras. In other words, make mental movements. As soon as they understood these are mental movements, that there's a power, there's a potency in the name that manifests a form, and there's a function also to it. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Nama, Rupa, and Kriya, function also. All these three go together. They realize these forces are not superior to us. We actually can master them. Because if you then manipulate a thought in the form of a word, a concept, that thought goes forth, and just like moisture is taken up from the oceans and collects in the clouds and condenses onto the earth, providing rainfall, that drama being enacted, then we can get whatever we want. We, in fact, it's not the gods that are omnipotent. We are omnipotent and we control them. It's quite true. And then another phase comes in. Yes, but that's all selfish. That won't do you any favors. And you're doing all this, not only for this world, but also the next world. But that is not real immortality. That's a kind of temporary holding camp where you earn your merit and so on and so forth. But you'll have to come back again. And you'll have to go through the same pain, same experiences. So it doesn't solve the problem of immortality. Let's do an investigation. And so the other side of this develops. Still sustaining thought, saying we can now move this thought in such a way that we'll get the immortality we are seeking. And the way in which they will move that thought will be in terms of beauty and purity and all the noble ideas you can think of in succession. And so they knew the psychology of how to do that, clarifying the mind, as I said last night, so that we get a vision of what the truth is beneath everything as a substratum. Our blissful base we can discover in this way. So that's just an addition to that question. I think on chat there was another question from somebody. So he writes like this: well done. You found the energy, will, determination, and dedication to master the mind, which is usually full of fear. You can make that a habit. The question will always be, where did that all come from? Well, it may be a question, but you see, if you removed all fear, the question itself doesn't arise, because fear only comes with duality. Fear only comes where there's an understanding of there are two things. If I put myself in a position which is either defensive or combative, and a world across the way from me, then if I like apples and somebody across the road is throwing apples at me, maybe I can get diverted into apple picking up apples and making an apple pie. And while I think of it, yesterday I spoke on freedom because, of course, 4th of July was there on Monday. And I meant to say something about that. So before we end, I might just complete that circuit. So we don't have any fear if we understand a unity of existence. My left hand cannot fear my right hand. It's not possible. We understand the same person. I won't go and slap my left cheek. I won't behave in such a way that my left foot gets jealous of my right foot. I look after my right foot, come on, talk to it every morning, sing it a song. And sometimes that foot goes to sleep, it's just poor circulation. And then the other foot becomes jealous. Why? You never attend to me. All right. So it's not like that because we know that there's a totality of a person. I often joke, you see, with the evolutionary people. I don't believe in evolution. What? You don't believe in evolution? It's a scientific fact. Well, no, because how can I believe in evolution if I believe in totality? I believe in totality. And in totality, nothing is changing. Nothing is moving, nothing is changing. So when you adopt that, if you can adopt that position, then the idea of fear is not even a question, not even a consideration. So that sphere of oneness is what the Upanishads call that state of mind. Otherwise, all my attention will be in a stressful encounter with other people or other situations or other events. Well, there's an alternative thing. I can stand outside that arena and be a witness. And a witness is intrinsically an enjoyer. If If I go to an art gallery, Swami Vivekananda's example, who is more stressed? The person who painted the picture, arranging the gallery, greeting people, giving them drinks, hoping that they will admire his pictures, not criticize them, and at the end of the day, hoping they will purchase some artwork of his. You go in and admire the painting and look at it. Maybe you pay a small entrance fee or something, but then you stand there witnessing, you become an enjoyer. You can go freely from each picture to the other. Sometimes sitting on a bench, looking at it from a distance, sometimes examining closely to see the beauty of the artwork or the brushwork. You're entirely an enjoyer when you're a witness. So witness is also enjoyer. If I'm witnessing a play, not involved in it, then I'm enjoying it. I can sit nicely, luxuriously in a seat and watch the performance from start to finish. I don't have to worry, will the scenery be knocked down? Will I remember my lines? Will the other person remember their lines? It's after all a play, and you assume things are well rehearsed, and if not well rehearsed, then it could actually be very funny. And I described that when I was in France one day, one of the visits. I described a scene like that. It was based on a group that make fun of serious plays where everything goes wrong, where people forget their lines, where parts of the scenery fall down, and where just nothing goes right, actually. And because it's supposed to be so serious, it's so hilarious also. So the question doesn't arise, whoever that questioner was. I see they wrote to me privately, not in the chat group. All right. You see, the great advantage of a question-answer session is there are some things that may not come out in a formal talk, some things that may not interest you in a formal talk. So this question about thought, how practical was it? It's not just the theory of it and the principles of it. The practical side of it is this. Knowing that I have the freedom to take a current of thought which has been not used yet, not channeled in any particular direction, just as a potentiality. I can take that vacant force, that energy, that psychic prana, and I can deliberately steer it in a chosen way, in a way that is joyful and elevating. Why not? What's the alternative? I can let it meander and agree for associations to come up from the unconscious mind, join forces with it, and let this new thought current be a flowing carrier for my stupidity. So instead of doing that, why don't I catch hold of the thought current, put it in the framework of time, and make it flow as I want it to flow in a useful direction. Useful direction means for others, for the good of others. That's the highest use we can make of it. Like, what use is a fireman standing with a hose pipe with water flowing if there's no fire? Just wasting water on the ground. There's no purpose, and creating a flood and a public nuisance. All the streets flooded. Who created this nuisance? Now there'll be all kinds of cholera because water will be lingering and so on and so forth. Who was it? Then investigation happened. Well, the fire department came at night and they sprayed the whole area with water. They emptied all their tanks and reservoirs and left you with a flood. Why did they do that? Well, nothing else to do. The water was there, the fireman was there. They just let the water do what it liked. No, it's only useful if there's a fire. Direct it in a chosen way in order to be useful, not be damaging. That's the key. All right, we'll leave it at that. So now only 2 minutes to go or so. Unless there are any further questions, we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Oh,
Merci beaucoup, Swami.
peace, 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 peace. Pay, pay, pay.
Thank you, Swamiji.